Hello, everybody. So far, this Aries solar cycle, the time when the sun is in Aries, has been, can I call it overshadowed? In a sense that is the case. Generally, the Aries cycle, when the sun is radiating all that solar energy down on at least this northern half of planet Earth, it's a conjoined effort of the Earth to release that which is ready to grow, and the Earth and the sun pulling very specifically as it encircles and enwraps that which is ready to sprout forth as an invitation from nature to erupt into spring growth. A lot of that going on up here in the Northwest where I live, though the weather over the past few days has been just a little peculiar with bouts of hail and snow and rain. And, we're used to wet springs. The little excerpts of snow and hail that have been thrown in, not out of the ordinary, yet a lot of the plants that are, young, tender shoots expressing themselves right now are being just a little bit challenged, just to check out to see how hardy are you going to be? Are you going to merit the requirements that will be required for growth this year? So just the sturdy ones are the ones that stand the better chance of survival. Now, when I was talking about the Aries experience being overshadowed, I've mentioned this over the past couple of weeks, actually a little longer than that. And where the shadow comes from is it comes from Pisces. There's so much still lingering in what it is that is the Pisces realm. And this week we have no less, there will be 4 planets that are going to be moving through Pisces. We start out the week with only 3, but Mars is going to join Venus, which is already there, and the Jupiter-Neptune conjunction, which perfects on Tuesday. If I were to put my finger on the pulse of this particular week's signature, I would have to say, pay attention to your dreams. Venus is exalted in Pisces. It arrived there last week. And will also be the planet that is brought into focus on Saturday or Friday, depending on where you are, of this week with the full moon in Libra. We'll get to that because it brings up certain considerations that are no less significant to the dream state that this week acts like an undertone, or maybe it's an overtone to how we envision what capacities are going to be available for us to tune into. Check my microphone. Seems like it's working okay. I did a check-in with the Council of Planetary Beings this morning before coming on, just to make sure that I wasn't going to miss any of the vitality that is transpiring this week. Maybe a glance at this week's chart might be in order. Oops, let's get it back to the beginning of the week. So here we are, beginning of the week. We've got Mars. You can see Mars sneaking up here on the Piscean realm. We've got Venus, Jupiter, and Neptune all in Pisces. And you can kind of see that Neptune is still slowly sneaking up on that Neptunian thing. And these two signatures, as well as the Venusian add to this Piscean component, is why the inclination to, it would probably be advisable to keep a dream journal close by your bed, because the potential for insight to arrive through the dreamscape this week is enhanced phenomenally, and will be so even more dramatically as Mars, the ruler of Aries, where the sun is just about to do its dance into Pisces as well. And Mars it's got a function. It energizes things. It kicks the energy up, in other words. And so the dynamism of the kinds of considerations that could flow through the dreamscape currently will be enhanced even more so than just the fact of the Jupiter and Neptune, which have been dancing through Pisces for quite a while now, weeks, but are going to perfect on Tuesday this week. This would be an excellent time not to just slide by and say, oh, I'm not going to pay attention to my dreams. The appropriate approach to the avenue of dreams currently is actually to set intentions. Is there something that might be brought to point, enhanced, or tickled just a little bit more than normal through your dreams that are relevant to what your living awake world might require right now? Just a little bug to put in your ear there, so that as you get ready to sail off to dreamland each of these nights, might there be something that could use deeper reflection? More than likely, there's not just one thing. So as we go through the week, this is Monday. Tuesday, things just, the perfection right here, you can kind of see Neptune and Jupiter. They're both at 23 degrees, 58 minutes of Pisces. That is the element of probably most dynamic significance that this week has in store for us. Just glance real quickly. Oh yeah, I think I talked about this before, or maybe I printed it up or something. But the Sabian symbol for this particular degree consideration from Dane Redger's An Astrological Mandala speaks to this degree as on a small island surrounded by the vast expanse of the sea. People are seen living in close interaction. The keynote: the need to consciously accept one's own personal limitations in order to concentrate one's energies and to live a centered and fulfilled life. Further expression: every individualized person is a small island in the vast ocean of mankind. The ego fulfills a necessary function as it sets boundaries and gives a specific character to the consciousness. Within these boundaries, a complex interplay linking and integrating the various aspects of the personal life can operate constructively. In time, these ego boundaries can not only expand, but can become a zone of intense interchange between the inner and the outer, between the individual and the community, between man, woman too in this case, and the universe. The key word: centralization. That may even be an efficient jump-off point to contemplate as you drift off into dreamland during this week. Okay, what day? We're on the 12th. The next thing that I have written down as far as the energies go is Mars. You can kind of see Mars is slipping closer here to Pisces. And right at the end of right at very penultimate end of last week on Sunday, Mercury shifted over here into Taurus. And by the end of this week, it's going to be, bumping elbows with Uranus in here. We'll get to that. But Mars. So we go here, we're on Thursday. Mars is at 29 degrees 37. And something to keep in mind right now is that the planets are all pretty much moving rather rapidly, except for the sun and the moon. They're not quite moving that fast. There we go, Friday. And to encompass or surround this upcoming weekend for the week when we will have the full moon on Saturday. See right there, that's the Saturday full moon right across here. And we'll get back to that. Keep in mind that the energy of this particular weekend with the full moon being in Libra. Let's go back to that one. First of all, I mentioned it just slightly to begin with, but this Mars entering into Pisces is going to energize and bring some very focused drive type processes to what it is that we might not just dream about, but actually sense as a vibrational enfold that is, it's always present, but we may not always tune into it, within which soul and spirit, God, if you will, Rama, whatever kind of names you want to utilize to express source are swirling around us. Just feel that for a moment. And when the Mars comes into Pisces on Friday this week, it's like sticking imagine this source is of the Pisces realm is a cauldron. And Mars is like sticking in a very energetic stirring rod into this equation and beginning to spin around and around the elements that are within that cauldron of awareness. And part of the reason, depending on how adamant one wishes to get with their dream cycle, that stirring stick can get quite vigorous. And one of the effects of that kind of vigor in any liquid can create whirlpools. And to some of us, the thought of being caught within a whirlpool is terrifying. Others of us recognize that it's time to let go. Go with the flow. And, one of the things about a whirlpool is that take a deep breath, and this is, we're doing this in the imaginal realm anyway, and go with the whirlpool down, and as that transpires, because of all the Piscean energy right now, you're going to be confronted with probably your own mortality right off the bat. But that's just the physical you, because as a soul being, you are immortal, and change is the name of the game, both mortal and immortal, but the levels of change are not the same. From a mortal perspective, it might be quite relevant to be terrified, because the prospects of not surviving in your mortal realm, this kind of an encounter, might be just a little bit more than mildly challenging. From the immortal side of you, or the soul perspective, it's kind of like, oh, it's time to release and go into the next phase of my immortality. One of the interesting things is, for those too enhanced by their mortal side, how to play a whirlpool is you still don't have a whole lot of choice once it's got you to go down in. But as you get to the, drawn down in there, eventually you have the opportunity to swim sideways and go be jettisoned or swim out of the actual downward pull of that whirlpool, and can swim back up to the surface slightly off to the side, so you don't get re-engaged in the whirlpool experience. But for the soul adventurers, those that want to dive into spirit, this can enhance a lot of that dreamscape that this week might hold for us. So the willingness is entirely up to you. Do I want to participate in that kind of a thing? Now let's get to the uniqueness of this week, which is this full moon. See the moon right here? It's at 24 degrees. This is at 8 o'clock in the morning on Saturday. Directly opposed to the sun, 26 degrees. So since the moon moves at a degree every 2 hours, This is 2 degrees away from it. This is 4 hours, so about noon on Saturday will be the exact full moon. That's Pacific Coast time. And you might also notice there's a bunch of aspect lines leading away from this full moon. We've got a square to Pluto. We've got trines to Saturn and Mars. We've got a quincunx over here to the Jupiter-Neptune conjunction. There's a lot of conversation in play between the planets for this particular full moon. It's in Libra. It has a trine to Mars, a trine to Saturn. And that square to Pluto. Generally, the cycles of the full moon bring out the lunatic. And we may all have our particular versions of what lunacy could mean. It's amazing how overwhelming the tendency among much of humanity places a lunatic version to what can transpire during almost any full moon. This one, however, because Venus is in Pisces, which is the ruling planet of Libra, where the full moon is going to be, the opportunity to dream is on the table. Now, what do you suppose this could mean? Dreams are opportunity to curtail limitation. Our aspirations being fed into or by the dreamscape could, for some, on this particular full moon this weekend, spin tales within our head as to what or who may appear as an ideal partner. Libra is partnership. Venus is love. Venus in love in the dreamscape on a full moon, you know, it's not out of the question that some will fall in love. After all, we are in springtime. Springtime is definitely played as that season where love is running rampant everywhere. So this particular full moon, you know, it can spin up, you know, either in the head or the heart, depending on where one aims one's consciousness to embrace more intimate time with others. And that's going to be played out in a fashion that you will be comfortable with. Just be aware that dreaming is on the table. And because of that, we may not perceive as clearly as our conscious mind and heart would generally be inclined toward. It could be a very exciting full moon, though. Just be aware that full moons are fleeting, because the moon's the fastest moving celestial being that interacts with us. So Saturday, it's noon, full moon is perfected, and that's on the west coast of the United States. Somewhere else, it could be at very different time frames. A little later in the afternoon on the East Coast, during the night in England, Europe. You can see kind of different time frames playing into this energy signature around the globe. Oh, yeah. One other thing to keep in mind, let's go a little past that full moon to Sunday to finish off the week. On Sunday, the moon has moved into Scorpio. Scorpio is the land of investigation. It's the arena of the shaman, the detective, the sleuth. The mysteries of life exist in that scorpionic zone. And this comes into opposition with Mercury and Uranus, who are coming into conjunction down here in Taurus. Mercury, how we think, how we talk. What is our capacity for communication, both as the projection of words, but also the capacity to listen, to hear things very, in this case, I'm going to say uniquely, because of the additional factor of Uranus in that equation. It says that things that normally might seem to flow smoothly with the Uranus factor in play might be a little bit more energized. That's a good way to see it, but also unpredictable. I think it's probably a more effective way to see this. So the reason I mentioned the listening factor to communication is because this Mercury dancing with Uranus, opposed by that moon up there in Scorpio, may present you with a level of insight that isn't normally present. You know, that scorpionic lunar part of the equation could inspire thoughts to investigate or become more attuned to the mysteries of life. And another aspect of Uranus, besides shaking things up, which it needs to do in order to awaken us, because Uranus is the great awakener as well. It's Prometheus, the aspect of the light bulb coming on. It's like, whoa, why didn't I see that before? And this is one of those opportunities where the light bulb coming on could be inspired by, that mercurial factor in play, and also that scorpionic consideration of, how deep am I willing to go in this particular consideration? Do I have the wherewithal within the context of who I understand myself to be to take a chance, step through a veil, step over a line, cross a threshold into realms that I wouldn't normally be inclined to go into? Remember, we're still in a very strong dream cycle. So, I would basically say this is an invitation to really, to take that chance. See if there are inspirations that you don't normally tune into that could take your dreamscape into places you've never imagined before. That is one way to play it. Coming the day after the full moon, there could also be a natural inclination to consider or question the ramifications of who may have specifically crossed your path during that full moon experience of yesterday. And how willing might you be to go just a little bit deeper with them in the process of following the bouncing ball of life? It can be played a lot of different ways. For some, it might be like, oh my God, what was I thinking to be drawn to this person on this full moon? And it's like, maybe it was my dreams that led me astray. And for others, it's kind of like, I think I may have found my life partner. Two very different ramifications. But finding a life partner and whacking oneself in the forehead because you wonder why you did the crazy things you did the night before are both options to the kind of energy that's in play. Keep in mind, we're still in a substantial zone of dream work. That Mercury down there dancing, holding hands with Uranus. It can say, take a chance. It's also Mercury. It can say, I should probably talk to somebody about this, compare notes, and I don't necessarily mean comparing notes with the person that the full moon had you connecting up with, but more comparing notes with someone you trust. And I say this very specifically because of the potential for wandering, maybe wandering and wondering that is often epitomal in our dream adventures. It's just being tapped on the shoulder here by the sun says, hey, wait a second, we're still in Aries. There's still, a little bit of time left because the sun's going to actually go into Taurus next week. We got essentially a week and a couple of days until the sun's going to. But this, like I began this consideration with, the Aries cycle has not been played up generally as fiery and vivacious as is usually the case because of that strong Piscean overlay. Factors in play. So all of you that are, born in this Aries cycle, which we're getting near the end of, may have and may still encounter certain circumstances where it doesn't seem like others are showing you the kind of appreciation that, here in your birth month, you should be receiving. I would ask you, how has your dream cycle been? Because there are energies and beings that inhabit that zone that you likely have had the opportunity to engage with. And that may be the best I have to offer you for this particular Aries cycle of 2022. I think I'm going to let that wrap up the consideration for this week. Oh, I see also on Sunday that there will be a sextile formed between Venus, that ruler of the new moon, and in Pisces, and Uranus. And sextiles have a tendency to inspire action of certain sorts. Well, what kind of action do you think Venus in dreamland might inspire with Uranus, the unlimited frontier of unpredictable creativity? Keep your seatbelts fastened. I think the dream time that arrives for us on Sunday is going to be anything but too mellow. Anything but too mellow. So have a good week ahead. I'll be back with you next week. And we'll see what kind of inspiration that the Planetary Council has for us to ponder. Ponder. I think another ideal term is it's wonder. You can say, well, I wonder about that. But how about life is a wonder? It kind of adds a different dimension to just wondering about something. Maybe some incentive. Maybe when we come out of this next week and go into Taurus, we'll have a greater appreciation for this planet that we live on that we didn't have before. Ciao, buddies. Dream well.